Captain Kim Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars through the main view screen. 3 months had passed since they left Earth's solar system. 3 months of empty space, boring reports, and crew members asking when they could go home. "Captain," called Park So-min from her science station. Her voice was tight with excitement. "You need to see this." Dae-ho walked over to her console. Numbers and graphs filled the screen, but he could not understand most of them. That was why? He needed smart people like So-min. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "Energy readings," So-min said, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Something big is out there. Really big." The bridge suddenly filled with the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed everywhere. Lee Jun-sik jumped up from his weapons station, his hand already reaching for the alert button. "Contact!" shouted Nam Tae-jun from engineering. "Unknown object. Bearing 2-7-Mark-4. Dae-ho felt his heart speed up. This was it. This was what they had come out here to find. "On screen," he ordered. The view screen changed. Where empty space had been before, now there was something impossible. A massive structure hung in the darkness, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a city made of metal and crystal, spinning slowly in the void. "How big is that thing?" Dae-ho asked. So Dashman checked her instruments. "About 15 kilometers long, 8 kilometers wide." "Captain, this is definitely not natural. Someone built this." The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at the alien structure. After years of searching, humans had finally found proof that they were not alone in the universe. "Any signs of life?" Dae-ho asked. "Scanning now," So-min replied. She worked at her console for several minutes. "I'm getting some energy signatures. But they're very weak, like the whole thing is in sleep mode." Lee Jun-sik moved closer to the captain. "Sir, I think we should keep our distance. We don't know what that thing can do." "Or we could go back to Earth and report this," suggested Nam Tae-jun over the COM system. "Let the politicians decide what to do." Dae-ho looked at the alien structure again. It was beautiful in a strange way. The metal seemed to flow like water, and lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that almost looked like writing. "Choi Mi-young to the bridge," he said into his COM unit. A few minutes later, the ship's linguist and alien expert arrived. Choi Mi-young was young, but she knew more about possible alien contact than anyone else on the ship. She had studied every theory, every possibility, every protocol. "My God," she whispered when she saw the view screen. "It's real." "What do you think?" Dae-ho asked her. Mi-young studied the structure carefully. "The design is unlike anything in our databases. But look at those patterns on the hull. They repeat every few seconds. That could be some kind of language or identification system. Is it dangerous?" Lee Jun-sik asked. "I don't know," Mi-young admitted. "But if they wanted to hurt us, they probably would have done it already." "Our ship isn't exactly hiding," So-min looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting an airlock. At least I think it's an airlock. It's the right size for our shuttle." Dae-ho felt everyone looking at him. This was the moment that would define his career, maybe even human history. They could run back to Earth with news of first contact. They could stay here and observe from a safe distance. Or they could do what humans had always done when faced with the unknown. They could go closer. "Jun-sik, what's the status of our weapons?" Dae-ho asked. "All systems ready, sir." But against something that big dude, Jun-sik shook his head. "Tae-jun, can you modify our shuttle for unknown atmospheric conditions?" "Give me 2 hours," came the reply from engineering. "So-min, I want continuous scans. Any change in that structure's energy levels, you tell me immediately." "Yes, sir." Dae-ho turned to Mi-young. "Start preparing first contact protocols. We're going aboard." The bridge exploded with voices. Jun-sik started talking about military procedures. Nam Tae-jun listed all the things that could go wrong. Even So-min looked worried. "Captain," Mi-young said quietly, "are you sure about this?" Dae-ho looked at the alien structure again. Somewhere inside that thing might be the answers to questions humans have been asking for thousands of years. "Are we alone? What's out there in the dark?" Who built the pyramids? Okay, maybe not that last one, but still. We didn't come out here to run away at the first sign of aliens, he said. We came out here to find them. But the protocols say... Junseek started. The protocols were written by people who never saw an alien ship, Daeho interrupted. We're writing new protocols now. Over the next 2 hours, the crew prepared for something no human had ever done before. Taejun modified the shuttle's life support systems and added extra shielding. Somin loaded her portable scanners with every sensor program she could think of. Mi-young packed translation computers and first contact equipment. Jun-Sik wanted to come armed to the teeth, but Daeho said no. If we go in looking like we want to fight, they might give us one. Finally, they were ready. The shuttle Pioneer detached from the Indomitable and flew toward the alien structure. As they got closer, it seemed even bigger. The hull stretched out in all directions, covered with symbols that pulsed with soft light. There, Somin pointed at the view screen. That opening, it's definitely an airlock. The opening was perfectly sized for their shuttle. Too perfectly sized. Either it was an amazing coincidence or something was expecting them. Take us in, Taejun, Daeho ordered. The shuttle slipped through the opening into a chamber that sealed behind them. Lights came on automatically, showing walls made of some kind of living metal that seemed to move and shift. Atmosphere is breathable, Somin reported, sounding surprised. Oxygen, nitrogen, even the pressure is right for humans. That's impossible, Mi-young said. How could they know our atmospheric requirements? Maybe they don't, Daeho said. Grimly, maybe this is their atmosphere and we just got lucky, or maybe something else was going on. Something that had been waiting for them. They put on their helmets anyway and checked their equipment one more time. Then Daeho opened the shuttle door and stepped onto an alien ship. The corridor beyond was huge, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above them. The walls pulsed with that same soft light, and there was a sound like distant music coming from somewhere deeper in the structure. Which way? Taejun asked. Before anyone could answer, the corridor began to change. The walls shifted and moved, creating a clear path leading deeper into the ship. Lights appeared along the floor, showing them the way forward. Well, Daeho said, I guess we follow the yellow brick road. They walked deeper into the alien structure, leaving the shuttle behind. None of them knew that they were about to discover something that would change not just their lives, but the fate of every human being in the galaxy. Something had been waiting for them. Something that had been imprisoned for thousands of years. Something that needed their help. The corridor stretched ahead of them like a tunnel made of living light. Captain Kim Daeho led the way, followed by Park So-min and Choi Mi-young. Their footsteps echoed strangely in the alien space, sometimes loud, sometimes completely silent. The walls are moving, So-min whispered, pointing her scanner at the shifting surfaces. But they're not organic. It's some kind of programmable matter. Mi-young touched one of the walls gently. It felt warm, almost alive. The symbols keep changing. Look, they're different now than they were 5 minutes ago. Daeho checked his comm unit. Taejun, are you reading this? Copy, Captain. The energy? Readings are off the charts. Whatever power source this thing uses, it's beyond anything we understand. They walked for what felt like hours, but their chronometers showed only 20 minutes had passed. The corridor kept changing around them, sometimes wide enough for a truck, sometimes so narrow they had to walk single file. The lights in the floor always showed them which way to go. It's like a maze, Mi-young said, but one that changes too. Guide us somewhere specific. The question is where? Daeho replied. They got their answer when the corridor opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling was so high they could not see it in the darkness above. Strange machines lined the walls, humming, with energy. And in the center of the room was something that made them all stop and stare. It was a prison. A cylinder of clear crystal rose from the floor, tall as a building. Inside, floating in some kind of liquid, was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen. It had 4 arms, skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and a head that was too large for its body. Its eyes were closed, but somehow they could tell it was not dead. Is it sleeping? So-min asked. Scanning, Mi-young said, pointing her equipment at the crystal prison. I'm getting brainwave patterns. It's alive, but in some kind of suspended state. As they watched, the creature's eyes opened. They were completely black, with no white or iris visible. The creature looked at them through the crystal, and suddenly Mi-young screamed. Mi-young! Daeho grabbed her as she fell to her knees, holding her head in her hands. It's in my mind, she gasped. I can hear it talking. Get away from that thing, Daeho ordered, but Mi-young shook her head. No, wait, it's not trying to hurt me. It's trying to communicate. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Her face showed pain, but also wonder. It's been waiting for someone who could understand. Understand what? So-min asked. Mi-young opened her eyes. They were filled with tears. Its name is Veltar. It's been imprisoned here for 3,000 years, and it has a warning for us. The creature in the crystal raised one of its 4 arms and pressed it against the inside of its prison. Mi-young did the same thing, placing her hand on the outside of the crystal. It's showing me things, she said. Images, a galaxy full of stars and planets and ships, so many ships. What kind of ships? Daeho asked. Warships. Belonging to something called the hegemony. They rule the galaxy, Captain. They've been ruling it for millions of years, So-min checked her scanners. Mi-young, your brain activity is off the charts? Whatever this thing is doing to you, it's not doing anything to me, Mi-young interrupted. It's sharing its memories. The hegemony doesn't allow new species to develop. When a race shows signs of rapid advancement, they eliminate them. Daeho felt cold. Eliminate them how? Complete destruction. They call it correction. They've done it thousands of times. Through Mi-young, Veltar continued to share its memories. Images flooded her mind of beautiful worlds turned to ash, of entire civilizations wiped out because they grew too fast or learned too much. Veltar's people were called the Ancients, Mi-young said. They were the first to resist the hegemony. They fought back. What happened to them? So-min asked. They lost. The hegemony destroyed their worlds and captured the survivors. Some were killed as examples. Others, like Veltar, were imprisoned as warnings. The creature in the crystal moved closer to the glass, its black eyes staring at them with desperate hope. It says humanity has been marked, Mi-young continued. The hegemony has been watching us. Our technology, our expansion into space, our nuclear weapons, we're advancing too fast. How fast? Daeho asked. The correction fleet is already on its way. It will reach Earth in 6 months. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of the alien machines. Daeho felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. They had come looking for aliens and instead found out that aliens were coming to kill them all. There has to be something we can do, he said. Mi-young listened to Veltar's mental voice. It says there might be, but it doesn't understand why the hegemony is so afraid of humans. Afraid? So-min asked. They're sending a fleet to destroy us. That doesn't sound afraid. No, you don't understand. The hegemony has protocols for dealing with advancing species. Usually they send a small force to destroy key cities and infrastructure. But for humanity, they're sending everything. How much is everything? Daeho asked. 1,000 ships. Maybe more. Veltar has never seen them deploy such a force. The creature pressed both of its upper arms against the crystal. Its mental voice grew stronger in Mi-young's mind. It's asking me something, she said. It wants to know how we think, how we solve problems. What do you mean? It's showing me examples. Mathematical problems, engineering challenges, tactical scenarios. It wants to understand how human minds work. Mi-young closed her eyes and tried to answer Veltar's questions. She thought about human history, about how they had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, how they had split the atom and walked on the moon and built computers from sand. Veltar's response was so strong it knocked her backward. What did it say? Daeho asked, helping her up. It said that's impossible. The way we think, the way we approach problems. According to everything the hegemony knows about intelligence, we should have destroyed ourselves centuries ago, but we didn't, so Min said. No, we didn't. And that's what scares them. Every other species in the galaxy either stays primitive or follows logical patterns of development. We don't. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and we keep surviving things that should kill us. Veltar touched the crystal again, and more images flooded Mi Young's mind. It's showing me other species, races that were eliminated by the hegemony. They all followed predictable patterns. They all developed in ways that made sense. But humans, humans, we're different. We don't just adapt to challenges, we turn them into advantages. We don't just solve problems. We find solutions that shouldn't work but do. The creature in the prison moved closer to the glass, its forearms spread wide. It's asking us to do something, Mi Young said. Something no species has ever done before. What? It wants us to free it. And then it wants us to do what its people couldn't do 3,000 years ago. Deho looked at the massive crystal prison, then at his small team, which is, fight back. And win. The chamber filled with the sound of distant alarms. Somewhere in the depths of the alien structure, ancient systems were waking up. Veltar had been waiting for 3,000 years, and now it had found what it was looking for, humans who refused to accept that some things were impossible. Back on the Indomitable, the crew gathered in the main briefing room. Captain Kim Dae-ho sat at the head of the table, his face grim. The news from the alien structure had shaken everyone. Let me get this straight, Lee Jin-sik said, pacing back. And fourth, there's a galactic empire that kills any species that gets too advanced. And they're coming to destroy Earth in 6 months. That's correct, Choi Mi-young replied. She still looked pale from her mental contact with Veltar. The hegemony has been doing this for millions of years, Nam Tae-jin leaned forward. How? Do we fight something like that? We barely have ships that can leave our solar system. We don't fight them, Jun-sik said. We run. We go back to Earth, warn everyone, and hope we can hide or evacuate some people. Park So-min shook her head. Hide where? They control the entire galaxy and evacuate 8 billion people? With what ships? Dae-ho looked around the table. These were good people, smart people, but they were thinking like humans always did when faced with impossible odds. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to run. None of them wanted to give up. What else did Veltar tell you? He asked Mi Young. She closed her eyes, remembering the alien's mental voice. It said the hegemony has a pattern. They study a species for decades before deciding if it needs to be corrected. They look at technology growth, social development, military capability. And we failed the test, Tae-jun said. No, that's just it. We passed it too well. According to their calculations, humans should have destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons 50 years ago. When we didn't, they started paying attention. So-min pulled up data on her tablet. What made them decide to send the correction fleet? Several things. Our space program advanced faster than predicted. We developed internet technology decades ahead of their projections. But the final trigger was something else. What? Mi Young looked uncomfortable. Our entertainment, Jun-sik stopped pacing. Our what? Movies, books, video games? The hegemony intercepted our radio and internet signals. They studied our fiction, and it terrified them. Terrified them how? Dae-ho asked. Other species, when they create stories, they're logical. Their heroes win through superior technology or careful planning. But human stories? What about human stories? Our heroes win by being stubborn, by refusing to quit even when everything is hopeless, by finding ways to turn their weaknesses into strengths. The room went quiet. Everyone thought about the movies they had grown up watching, the books they had read. Stories where ordinary people saved the world against impossible odds. Veltar showed me something else, Mi Young continued. The hegemony tried to model human behavior in their computers. They wanted to predict how we would respond to different threats. What happened? Their computers couldn't do it. Every simulation ended differently. When they programmed humans to be logical, We solved problems through science and cooperation. When they programmed us to be aggressive, we found ways to turn conflict into competition. When they programmed us to be selfish, we somehow ended up helping each other anyway. So-min laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. So they decided to kill us because we're unpredictable? They decided to kill us because we're impossible, Mi-young said. According to everything they know about intelligence and evolution, humans shouldn't exist. Taejun looked confused. What do you mean? Think about it. We're a young species that split the atom before we learned to live in peace. We created weapons that could destroy our world and then we didn't use them. We built global communication networks and used them to share pictures of cats. Don't forget memes, Jun-sik added. We're too aggressive to be peaceful, too curious. To be safe, too stubborn to be smart, but somehow it works. We keep surviving, keep advancing, keep finding solutions that shouldn't exist. Daeho stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the alien structure floating in space. What does Veltar want from us? It wants us to prove something that its people couldn't. That intelligence doesn't have to follow rules, that chaos can be stronger than order. How do we do that? Mi-young took a deep breath. By doing what no species has ever done, fight the hegemony and win. With one ship? Jun-sik asked. With one ship and an advantage no other species has ever had. Which is the ability to be human. Over the next few hours, Mi-young worked with Veltar to learn more about the galaxy. The alien shared its memories through their mental link, showing her things that made her head spin. The hegemony wasn't just one species. It was hundreds of races, all working together under strict rules. Each species had a role to play. Some were builders, others were soldiers, others were thinkers. They had achieved perfect efficiency. Perfect efficiency, So-min repeated when Mi-young explained it. That actually sounds nice. It sounds dead, Daeho said. No innovation, no creativity, no growth. Just everyone doing their assigned jobs. Forever. Veltar's people tried to break free, Mi-young continued, but they made a mistake. They tried to beat the hegemony at their own game. Better technology, better strategy, better organization. That didn't work. The hegemony had millions of years to perfect their systems. The ancients were smarter, but they were still playing by the same rules. Taejun leaned back in his chair. So what makes us different? We don't play by the rules. We change them. So-min pulled up a technical readout. I've been studying the alien technology from the structure. It's incredible, but it's also predictable. Every system has a logical purpose. Every component follows mathematical principles. And human technology? Half our inventions happened by accident. We discovered penicillin because someone left a Petri dish dirty. We invented the microwave because someone stood too close to a radar dish. We built computers from silicon because someone thought sand might work better than metal. Mi-young nodded. That's what Veltar doesn't understand. It keeps asking me to explain human logic, but there isn't any. We just try things to see what happens. Sometimes we blow things up, Jun-sik added helpfully. Sometimes we blow things up, Mi-young agreed. But sometimes we create miracles. Daeho turned back to face the room. What's the plan? Veltar knows the locations of other imprisoned ancients. If we can free them, combine their knowledge with human thinking, we might have a chance, So-min finished. Might? Jun-sik asked. The hegemony has never faced anything like us, Mi-young said. They've spent millions of years creating perfect systems to deal with logical threats, but we're not logical. We're insane, Taejun said. We're human, Daeho corrected. And maybe that's enough. He looked around the table at his crew. They were scared, confused, and facing impossible odds. In any sensible universe, they would go home and hope for the best, but humans had never been sensible. We're going to free the other ancients, Daeho decided. We're going to learn everything we can about this hegemony, and then we're going to do something they'll never expect. What's that? So-min asked. We're going to save Earth by being ourselves. Stubborn, unpredictable, impossible humans. Jun-sik grinned. So we're really going to try to fight a galactic empire with one ship and a bunch of aliens who've been in prison for thousands of years? Yes. That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. Good, Deho said. If we can't understand it, maybe. They can't either. And deep in the alien structure, Veltar felt something it hadn't experienced in 3,000 years of imprisonment. Hope. Captain Kim Deho stood in front of Veltar's crystal prison, making the hardest decision of his life. The alien had given them star charts showing 3 other prison structures scattered across the galaxy. Each one held another ancient, and each one was more dangerous to reach than the last. We could go home, Park So-min said quietly. Warn Earth about what's coming, and then what? Deho replied. Hide behind the moon and hope the hegemony doesn't find us? Choi Mi-young pressed, her hand against the crystal. Veltara's mental voice filled her mind with images of the other prisons. The first one is closest. 3 days' travel if we use the ancient navigation systems. What about defenses? Lee Jun-sik asked. Automated systems. The hegemony doesn't expect anyone to try rescuing prisoners. Nan Taejun had been studying the alien technology for hours. Captain, I think I can integrate some of their systems with ours. It shouldn't work, but ... But we're human, Deho finished. We make things work that shouldn't. The next few days were the strangest of their lives. Taejun worked with ancient technology that seemed to respond to his thoughts more than his tools. The ship's engines hummed with new harmonics as alien, and human systems merged in ways that defied physics. The power output is impossible, So-min reported. According to our instruments, we're generating more energy than we're consuming. Ancient technology doesn't follow our rules, Mi-young explained. Veltar says they learned to work with the universe instead of against it. And human technology? We're too stubborn to let the universe tell us what's impossible. When they reached the first prison, Jun-sik got his first real test of human unpredictability versus alien logic. The structure was surrounded by defensive satellites that should have destroyed them instantly. 36 weapons platforms, Jun-sik reported, all targeting us. Standard hegemony defense pattern, Mi-young said, listening to Veltar. They'll attack in sequence, most logical targets first. So what do we do? Deho smiled, something illogical. Instead of attacking the strongest defenses or trying to sneak past, they flew straight at the weakest satellite. When it fired, they used its own weapon blast to destroy 2 other platforms. Then they spun their ship like a top, confusing the targeting systems. This is insane, Jun-sik muttered, but he was grinning as he fired at targets that shouldn't have been in range. It's working, though, So-min laughed. The defensive systems had been programmed to fight logical opponents. They couldn't adapt to humans who treated space combat like a game instead of a science. Inside the second prison, they found Morden, the warrior philosopher. The ancient was larger than Veltar, with skin like stone and eyes that glowed with inner fire. When Mi-young made mental contact, she nearly collapsed from the intensity of its thoughts. It's been planning, she gasped. For 1,000 years, it's been planning the perfect strategy to defeat the hegemony. Did it work? Deho asked. It never got the chance to try. But it wants to know how we destroyed those satellites. Mi-young explained their chaotic attack pattern. Morden's response was so strong it made her laugh out loud. What did it say? It said that was the most beautifully stupid thing it had ever heard, and it wants to learn more. The second rescue went even better. Taechun's hybrid systems were getting stronger, somehow learning from each encounter. The ship moved through space in ways that shouldn't have been possible, jumping short distances without using hyperspace drives. How are we doing that? So-min asked. I honestly don't know, Taejun admitted. I just asked the ship to go somewhere and it figures out how. They found Zixara the Master Builder in a prison surrounded by an asteroid field. The rocks moved in perfect patterns, creating a maze that should have been impossible to navigate. Standard approach? Jun-sik asked. Never, Deho replied. This time they didn't try to navigate the maze at all. They flew straight up above the asteroid field and dropped down like a rock. The defensive systems hadn't been programmed to expect attacks from above because it was tactically stupid. Stupid but effective, Morden commented through Mi Young. Zixara was different from the other ancients. Its body seemed to be made of liquid metal that constantly shifted and changed. When Mi Young touched its prism, she saw visions of incredible cities and machines that built themselves. It's an engineer, she reported. It knows how to build things that grow and adapt. Like our ship? Better. It can teach us to build technology that thinks for itself. The third rescue was the hardest. Quintal, the keeper of Forbidden's knowledge, was held in a prison that existed in folded space, hidden inside a star. The heat should have killed them instantly. The ship's shielding is holding, Taijun reported, but I don't know how. Because we believe it will, Mi Young said. Veltar says human confidence changes reality in small ways. That's impossible. So, is everything else we've done? They found Quintal in a chamber filled with floating crystals, each one containing the knowledge of a destroyed civilization. The ancient looked ancient even by ancient standards, its body translucent and filled with swirling lights. When Mi Young made contact, she saw the history of the galaxy. Millions of species, all following the same patterns, all destroyed when they tried to grow beyond their assigned roles. It knows where the hegemony's control center is, she said. A place called the Nexus. Can we reach it? It's possible. But Quintal doesn't understand why we would want to. Every species that has tried to attack the Nexus has been destroyed. How many have tried? 47. Deho looked at his crew. 4 humans and 4 rescued ancients in a ship that ran on impossible technology, against a galactic empire that had ruled for millions of years. 48 sounds like a good number, he said. The Indomitable had changed. With 4 ancients aboard and their knowledge flowing through the ship's systems, it barely looked human anymore. The hull shifted like living metal, weapons grew and adapted as needed, and the engines sang with harmonics that made reality bend around them. I don't recognize half our own systems, Nam Tajin admitted. He stood in what used to be engineering but now looked like the inside of a crystal cave. Everything's alive. Park So-min ran her hands over a control panel that pulsed with warm light. It's not just alive, it's happy. The ship likes what we're doing. Through Choi Mi Young, the 4 ancients shared their knowledge with the human crew. Veltar taught them about galactic politics and the hegemony's weaknesses. Morden showed them fighting techniques that turned momentum into weapons. Zixara helped them understand technology that grew instead of being built. And Quintal opened their minds to possibilities they had never imagined. The Nexus controls everything, Mi Young explained during a briefing. Every ship, every planet, every species. It's like a giant brain that thinks for the entire galaxy. How? Do we fight something like that? Li Jun-sik asked. We don't fight it, Deho said. We confuse it. Quintal had shown them the Nexus's weakness. It was designed to handle logical threats through careful analysis and perfect responses. But humans weren't logical. The plan is simple, Deho continued. We sneak into the Nexus, connect our ship's systems to theirs, and upload something they've never seen before. What? Humanity, So-min looked confused. How do you upload humanity? By being ourselves? Our thoughts, our dreams, our stubborn refusal to accept that anything is impossible. We're going to teach the galaxy to think like humans. The journey to the Nexus took 2 weeks. They flew through space that wasn't quite space, following paths that existed only when they believed in them. The ship sang strange songs and showed them wonders that no human had ever seen. Ancient communication networks brought them news from across the galaxy. Species that had been quiet for millennia were stirring. The hegemony's perfect order was developing cracks. Something's happening, Mi Young reported. The ancients are sharing our existence with other imprisoned minds. Word is spreading that someone is fighting back. Is that good or bad? Jun-sik asked. Both. It means we have allies we didn't know about. But it also means the hegemony knows we're coming. When they reached the Nexus, they found a structure that defied description. It was part machine, part organism, part mathematical equation made real. It existed in 17 dimensions and filled space with patterns of pure thought. Defensive systems are everywhere, Junsik reported. I count over 1 million weapons platforms. Can we fight them? Not in any way that makes sense? Daeho studied the impossible structure. Then we won't fight them. We'll do something they won't expect. What's that? We'll knock on the front door and ask to come in. The hegemony had spent millions of years preparing for every possible attack. They had weapons that could destroy stars, shields that could stop time, and strategies that had never failed. What they didn't have was a plan for dealing with polite visitors. When the Indomitable approached the main entrance and broadcast a simple message, "Hello, we'd like to talk," the entire defensive network paused. For 17 seconds, the most powerful military force in the galaxy didn't know what to do. 17 seconds was enough. The final assault on the Nexus began with Choi Mi-young walking through the front door. The hegemony's security systems were designed to stop armies, fleets, and weapons of mass destruction. They had no protocols for dealing with a single human, who knocked politely and asked to speak to whoever was in charge. "This is insane," Lee Junsik muttered as he watched Mi-young disappear into the massive structure. "It's perfectly logical," Captain Kim Daeho replied. "They've been studying us from a distance. Now we're giving them a chance to meet us up close." Inside the Nexus, Mi-young walked through corridors filled with pure information. The walls showed her the history of the galaxy, millions of years of perfect order and controlled development. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. She found the central consciousness in a chamber that existed in all dimensions at once. It wasn't a machine or a creature, but something between the two. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere. "And nowhere, human," it said, "you should not exist." "But I do," Mi-young replied. "And that's the problem, isn't it?" The consciousness showed her probability cascades, mathematical proofs that human civilization should have collapsed centuries ago. "You are chaos. You bring disorder to perfection. We bring change to stagnation." Outside, the rest of the crew prepared for the most important hack in history. Nam Tae-jun had connected the ship's hybrid systems to the Nexus's outer networks. Park So-min monitored energy flows that defied physics. And Junsik watched for signs that the entire hegemony fleet was about to converge on their position. "Connection established?" Tae-jun reported. "But Captain, I don't think our systems are compatible." "Make them compatible," Daeho ordered. "I don't know how. Then figure it out. Be human." Tae-jun stopped trying to understand the alien technology and started talking to it instead. He told it about Earth, about people who dreamed impossible dreams and made them real. He shared memories of first flights, first steps on the moon, first messages sent across the world in seconds. The Nexus systems began to resonate with something they had never experienced before: wonder. Inside the central chamber, Mi-young continued her conversation with the galactic consciousness. "You're afraid of us because we don't follow your rules. Rules create order. Order creates peace. Order creates death. We've seen your peace. Billions of species all doing exactly what they're told, never growing, never changing, never becoming more than they are. Growth leads to chaos. Chaos leads to destruction. Sometimes chaos leads to miracles." She showed the consciousness human history. Not the sanitized version the hegemony had studied, but the real thing. Wars and peace, hatred and love, failure and triumph all mixed together in a glorious, chaotic mess that somehow worked. "This is madness," the consciousness said. "This is life," Mi-young replied. The moment came when Tae-chun's hybrid systems finally connected fully with the Nexus networks. For an instant, human thoughts flowed through the galaxy's central nervous system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the galaxy, species that had been dormant for millennia suddenly remembered what it felt like to dream. Artists began creating new works. Scientists started asking new questions. Children looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. The hegemony's perfect order began to crack. "What have you done?" the consciousness demanded. "We've given the galaxy what you took away," Mi-young said. "Hope," Emergency signals flooded the Nexus as rebellion broke out on 1,000 worlds. The hegemony fleet, perfectly organized and utterly predictable, found itself facing enemies who had learned to think like humans. The consciousness tried to reassert control, but it was too late. The galaxy had remembered how to be alive. "You have destroyed everything," it said. "We've saved everything," Mi Young corrected. "Including you." She reached out and touched the central consciousness, sharing one final human concept: the possibility of becoming something better than you were. For the first time in millions of years, the Nexus consciousness felt curiosity. 6 months later, Captain Kim Dae-ho stood in the United Nations building, but it looked very different now. Representatives from 47 species filled the expanded assembly hall, and the air hummed with translation devices in dozens of languages. The hegemony still existed, but it had changed. Instead of enforcing stagnation, it now encouraged growth. Instead of destroying developing species, it helped them reach for the stars. Park So-min headed the new Galactic Research Initiative, where human chaos theory met alien precision to create technologies that were previously impossible. Nam Tae-jun taught other species how to build machines that thought for themselves. Lee Jun-sik trained multi-species crews in the art of unpredictable warfare, just in case. And Choi Mi-young served as humanity's first ambassador to a galaxy that was finally free to grow. The correction fleet that had been sent to destroy Earth never arrived. Instead, those ships joined the growing alliance of species who had learned that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem was to refuse to accept that it was impossible. "What's next?" Veltar asked during one of their regular mental conversations. Mi-young looked out at the stars where human ships now flew, alongside vessels from 100 different worlds. "I don't know," she said. "And that's the beautiful thing about being human. We never know what's coming next." "Is that not terrifying?" "Sometimes, but it's also wonderful. The universe is full of possibilities we haven't discovered yet." As she watched, a new ship departed from Earth's orbital shipyard. It was crewed by humans and ancients working together, heading out to explore regions of space that had been forbidden for millions of years. The galaxy was finally free to find out what was possible.